I call Jacinda Ardern.
Mr Speaker, I'm going to give a very straightforward contribution in this House to this particular bill and debate. You will not hear anyone in this chamber argue for a moment that we should be lured away from the focus of protecting children. Everyone in this House agrees that we should be putting in place, as far as our powers allow, protections to prevent children from being harmed, to, as far as we're able, prevent those who target children and seek to harm them, to protect children from those individuals. We share that intent. Intent, however, Mr Speaker, is not enough. It's not enough to symbolically stand up and say, we all believe this, and here's a law, a bill that proves that we believe this. Intent is not enough if the bill that this Parliament is debating will absolutely not deliver that shared view or that shared intent. This is the New Zealand Parliament. We cannot simply usher through pieces of legislation because it purports to do something that it doesn't. Now, I know that the Attorney-General will agree with me because he has made it absolutely undeniably clear in this bill, in his report, that the bill, which has been titled the Births, Deaths, Marriages and Relationships Registration Preventing Name Change by the Childless Sex Offenders Amendment Bill, actually doesn't even achieve the objective of the title. This bill will not stop sex offenders changing their name. Now, if that is meant to be the purpose of this bill, and yet we've had the Attorney-General tell us it will not achieve that outcome, why are we supporting it? Why would we waste this House's precious time with a bill that won't achieve the stated objective? Now, I want to read from the report. The Attorney-General states, notwithstanding its wide drafting, so this is some pointing out that actually the bill doesn't actually target those it's meant to as well, notwithstanding its wide drafting, the bill does not prevent or only partially prevents a child sex offender from changing their name. At common law, a person can lawfully use a name without registering it, so long as the new name is not used for fraudulent or improper purposes. The new identity is established simply by using the new name and by repute, and the change comes into effect when the person starts using the name. Similarly, a person is not legally obliged to give their registered name, address, or other information unless there are statutory requirements specifying otherwise. Those statutory requirements might be, for instance, registering to a teacher, in which you're required to have a criminal check and disclosure around criminal history anyway. The Attorney-General goes on to say, I consider the prohibition on child sex offenders changing their registered name will have a minimal impact on the ability for a child sex offender to use other names. This bill won't do what the bill sets out to do. Mr Speaker, it's farcical to have a Parliament act under the pretense that we are protecting children when clearly we are not. In fact, putting up that pretense is dangerous. And this is a point I wish to offer up in this House, because someone might say, well, even if it doesn't quite do it, if there's a small chance it might, maybe you should do it anyway. Putting through a bill that purports to prevent someone from changing their name when it doesn't creates a false sense of security. And that is a dangerous thing. The individual who in the past committed child sex offences and was found to have changed their name did so unlawfully. They fraudulently changed their name, as in they used a false name when they tried to register, take a job as a teacher. They acted unlawfully. This bill would not have stopped that. And so by passing a bill that makes it seem as though we've covered everyone who might do that, perhaps we might not take our police vets as seriously. Perhaps we might not do the checks and balances via the Teachers' Council that we need to undertake. We cannot afford to drop our vigilance, and I would put forward that this bill means that we could, as a result, drop our vigilance and put children at risk of being harmed when what we all collectively want to do is prevent that harm from happening in the first place. We cannot support a bill that the government's own Attorney-General patently does not support.